At 17, Maxim Smith had never held a job, had no direction, and knew he did not want to attend college. By 20, he had trained as an EMT, flown planes, crossed an ocean by sailboat, worked wildfires, handled cattle, and launched an agricultural drone business. What changed his life was not finding the perfect career or perfect major in college. It was learning to do difficult, real things, something that we ought to have more young adults be doing.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Janae Daniels. I'm a wife, a mother of 6, and a former middle school teacher turned homeschool mom, independent researcher, and homeschooling mentor. Welcome to the School to Homeschool podcast. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm very excited to have Maxim Smith on today. He is one of the co-authors of The Preparation. And a few weeks ago, I had his dad on to talk about his experience as a dad, writing The Preparation and helping mentor his son. But today, I wanted to talk to Maxim about his experience. So, Maxim, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Janae. I'm honored.
So let's start. Okay. You started homeschooling when you were 12 or 13, correct?
Yeah, about 13, 14 years old, yeah.
Was it about, okay. And then at what point in time did your dad say, what if we have you do something other than college or university? Or were you like, I want to go to university? Like, what was going on in your head as a teenager as you prepared for the future? I'm curious about that.
That was around 17, almost 18 years old.
Okay.
So quite a few years after. And I knew I didn't want to go to college. I was certain of that. And my dad had never pushed it on me. He's a serial entrepreneur, so it never came up, which I'm happy about. But it caused some problems because I had zero direction. I had zero interest of anywhere to go. And looking around at the 3 traditional options of college, the military, or the trades, none of those seemed interesting to me. And a lot of those have their own issues. I think college has the most issues out of any of them. So I didn't know where to go or what to do. And I was very lost at the time, extremely lost. I mean, unsure of where to go, what to do, depressed, angry with the world and with the people around me. But that was really just an outward expression of inward disappointment because I felt so far from the man who I could be. And so that was happening for quite a few years and caused some issues. But my dad saw this about July of 2023, and he spoke to his longtime friend, Doug Casey, international man, legendary speculator, investor. And Doug had previously tried to convince my dad to write a book with him about Renaissance men, basically, how to become one. And when Doug explained the core tenets of the book to my dad, he didn't get it and had no reason to follow through with writing the book. It just wasn't worth it for him at the time. But when my dad saw I needed some help, he reached back out to Doug. They had a phone call. And what came out of that phone call was enough to fit on a napkin. It was a list of occupational skills, game-based skills, and activity-based skills that at least Doug thought if a young man had even a foundational level of competency in all or even most of these things, he'd be far ahead of the rest. And so that's where it started. It was kind of an accident and the convergence of 3 generations with 3 different desires. Doug wanting to write this book before the end of his life, my dad wanting to help me, and then me trying to find a meaningful path. So it was just a miracle that all those things converged at the right time.
So then when they decided to write the book, you were 7, were you 17 at the time then?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. How did you feel about when your dad presented the information to you? How did you feel about that? Like, was it exciting to you or terrifying, or like what was going on in your head?
Well, I think it was a mix of the two. Part of it was exciting and interesting, but what stood at the forefront was the feeling of being terrified of actually doing stuff. Because I had zero real life experience. I had never had a job at that point. I mean, just to give you a good example of what I was like at the time, if we had guests over at the house, I would hide in my room. I had never done anything in my life. It was it was terrifying to think about potentially being criticized by others while trying to learn and do new things. But my dad pushed me to just get started, and the first thing I did was EMT school. That was the first major thing. And
How long did EMT school take you?
mine lasted 4 months. They usually last anywhere between 2 to 4 months. I should have done the 2-month long one, but after going through that, some of that, the feeling of being terrified started to fade away a little bit. But initially, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so what were the initial things that were on the napkin? What were some of those items?
In the occupational skills section, EMT was on there, sales, marketing, trades-based skills, the games-based skills, because Doug loves games, chess, poker, Go, and bridge. Activities including flying, getting your private pilot's license, sailing, different kinds of martial arts, learning a new instrument, a new language. Like I said, enough to fit on a napkin, not very much there, but it was still a good list to start off from.
And did they suggest, like, let's have you start with EMT, or was that one that you picked where you're like, I think I'm going to start here? Like, why EMT first? I know you're from your dad's perspective, but from your perspective, why that first?
My dad and I were going through the list together, and he just said, well, why don't you try this? And he looked it up, and there was a EMT school 30 minutes away. So there was no real thought going into the specifics of it and what might be best, what might allow you to make more money at the time. EMT skills don't really allow you to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
There was no thought behind that. It was just, you need to do something, no matter what it is, go in a direction, pick a path and start. And so with an EMT school being 30 minutes away and class starting like 8 days from when I signed up, that was just the perfect thing to do. Just do something, do anything.
So you did the EMT school, you were living at home, and then what was next? How'd you choose the next thing, I guess I should say? And what did you choose?
Well, our process for choosing the next thing, because I was, again, working with my dad, especially in the first year and a half of it, a lot. It was an ever-changing process because we didn't have the full curriculum of the preparation that we have now, where we have the 16 cycles to follow. So we were just making it all up along the way. And so my parents are divorced. My mom was living in Idaho. That's where I did EMT school. And then my dad lives here in Uruguay. So I came back here after EMT school, which was November of 2023. We live on a ranch. There's lots of Uruguayan gauchos around here, which are cowboys. And so my dad said, well, why don't you apprentice yourself to one we have here and learn how to actually work on the ranch. That was the next thing. I learned how to drive tractors, fix and build fences. I already knew how to ride horses, inspect and treat cattle, all the basic ranch stuff. That was the next 3 or 4 months after EMT school. Yeah.
So then, okay, so now we've got, you're in this 7 months in. At this point, had you, because I know in the preparation it has a list of like classics to read and music to listen to. Had you started delving into the classics as well? Or were you guys just like, okay, let's just do the skills for right now? Like, where were you as far as the book goes? And if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. It was, again, it was so different then before we had the actual cycles and really try to put effort into building a curriculum. I would just read whatever I thought was interesting to me at the time. I wasn't following a specific reading list or going through specific academics. I did actually almost zero academic stuff in the beginning, which I regret. It would have been better if I did. It was very kind of on the fly, cowboy like, just this is one thing to learn, dive into the next big thing, go at it. There were periods, like short period, where I worked with my dad to study economics. And so that was one beneficial academic thing in there. I did take a copywriting course as well. So that was its own thing, but there was no structure. It was at all. It was very different.
Yeah, it was the Wild West, as you said.
Yeah, kinda.
Okay, so what cycles have you done already? Which ones? You've done EMT. You did flight school too, correct? Okay.
Correct. So I've done the medic cycle. I've done the pilot cycle. I've done the sailor cycle, which is where you go to I mean, there's multiple different courses you can take, but I took a competent crew sailing course. I flew down to the Falkland Islands, which is kind of near the end of the world, as some people like to call it, off the coast of Argentina, and got on a sailboat there. Never sailed in my life. Sailed around the Falklands, and then did the ocean crossing to Chile, and that was where we ended that. That was 21 days. So I've done that. I've done the entrepreneur cycle. I started an agricultural drone business here in Uruguay.
Wow.
I don't know if you know those large DJI drones. They're agricultural drones. They're huge.
I'm not familiar with them.
Okay. So DJI is a Chinese drone company that manufactures these drones, and they have really small drones up to the full scale agricultural specific drones that can carry, at least the one we have can carry 40 kilos of seed or fertilizer. And so I was just offering my services to local farmers and ranchers of using this drone to seed or fertilize their land, because it just gets it done in like record time, does it super fast, very efficiently. So did that with the entrepreneur cycle. I got partially the way through the survivalist cycle recently. Definitely have done cycle 7 a few times, the work cycle we have, where we encourage people to.
Sorry. So with the survivalist cycle, what caused you to stop that cycle of the survivalist cycle?
I just wasn't feeling very well. It was a 14-day course, super intense, with Boulder Outdoor Survival School in Southern Utah. I mean, they're the real deal for sure, but just wasn't feeling well. And we were about to head into country that was not easy to get out of. So
Gotcha.
Figured it was best to pull out a little early.
Do you think, will you finish that cycle later, do you think?
I'd like to, for sure.
So then back to the other one. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm also going through the investor cycle right now. I've kind of extended that out a little bit. So I've done, I'd say, fewer of the actual cycles than I would have liked to at this point. But part of that was just because we didn't have that fully developed until about 2 years through. So I did a lot of different things throughout that time that were not specifically cycle related, if that makes sense.
Yes. What were some of those things that you accomplished as well?
I guess this could count as the work cycle in a way, but I became a type 2 firefighter because I got a just out of the blue opportunity to work on wildfires as an EMT. So I've done that 2 years now. That was one random thing I did, but also I got lots of different opportunities from people. I got an opportunity to go out and meet a man in Colorado who taught me the basics of mule packing. So I did that with him for a few days. Lots of different things in between the actual cycles that either came from random opportunities or different interests I had. Like I also studied a little bit about regenerative agriculture and try to make a chicken business here on the ranch. Yeah, lots of different things.
And how did that go with your chicken business?
Skunks are bad. They killed most of them. Yeah, it was a learning process for sure.
So
yeah.
Maxim, how old are you now? Because you started at 17, and how old are you now?
I'm 20, about to be 21.
Okay. As far as, and then every week you write a Substack, correct? And I was reading yours that you have a new cycle that you want to work on, and that is giving, right? Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah. So, like you said, every week I write a weekly update on what I'm doing in preparation. And this is something we encourage everybody in the preparation to do, because you need that the burden, the weight of other people watching what you're doing sometimes to help you continue forward. I know it's definitely helped me because I've had weeks where I hardly do anything, and I know I have to write that weekly update, and I'm embarrassed by the fact that I didn't do anything during that week. And it's helped me continue making progress. And now we have several people in the preparation actually uploading their weekly updates. There's a guy another wildland firefighter who just finished his wildland fire cycle. There's a guy who designed his own mechanic cycle. They all upload their weekly updates on Substack as well. But yes, I I am designing my own cycle right now and going through it where after 3 years, just under 3 years of learning and doing all these different things, I want to see how useful I can be or beneficial I can be to other people. And that could look like if somebody needed help fixing a fence around here or doing something on the ranch, helping them in that. But I wanted to expand beyond that and help those who are actually in the program, in the preparation, doing stuff, boots on the ground, because I know how difficult it is. And I applaud anybody who does it. So I'm kind of in the process of building a few products for those people that I think that will be beneficial. One of which is a community forum, because so many people
Nice.
have been asking for that. So I think that will help also push some people over the edge into actually starting the preparation, because they'll be able to take a look at it and see an actual group of people going through it and have a community where they can solve each other's problems, come up with different solutions for things, actually meet each other in person. They can set up meetings, plan cycles together, all these different things. And I think that will be beneficial, but we'll just have to see about that.
So I'm curious, at how long do you think you'll continue doing cycles for, and what other cycles do you really, really, really want to do that you haven't done yet?
Let's see. I am probably going to stop the preparation at that 4-year mark. So August of next year. I'll definitely stop at least the majority of it at that point. What cycles do I want to do? I've had very little exposure to a certain group of cycles that we have, which are kind of all interconnected. And that would be the builder cycle, heavy equipment operator cycle, and the welder cycle. Just because all those things exist in a world where you're actually able to learn new skills to allow you to shape the world around you directly, the material world. And I haven't done any of those. So I think I'd like to do that. And it would also be fun to do. I've done it in a way, the cowboy cycle, but I would like to go back to the States at some point and do a full mule packing course. I think that would be the most fun for me personally.
Now, have you been, because when I talked to your dad, he had mentioned that he had saved up some amount of money and you were able to use that money to do the cycles. Have you had to work at all while doing the cycles to earn money for any of the upcoming cycles?
Yes. In the very beginning, like I said, the beginning, I had never had a job at that point, starting the preparation. So while going through EMT school, I got a job at Office Depot, and then I was a pizza delivery boy for a little while. And I was able to save up about $5,000 at that point, which contributed to EMT school, which was only $1,500. So that was beneficial. I worked on a geophysics crew in Nevada for a short time. So that was also beneficial, making a little bit of money and having a very strange experience in a different line of work. And then working on wildfires. That's been the main thing for sure. It's actually shocking the amount of money you can make as an basic EMT on a wildfire. If you're in 911, you're making minimum wage for the most part. But if you go into wildfires, like for me personally, this last wildfire I was on this year, I was making $650 a day just being there. And on the medical side of wildland fire, there's not a lot of work. It's not like you're actually fighting the fire. So it's a significant amount of money for long hours, but relatively little work and basic certifications. And I guess the last thing on top of that would just be the Substack. I have about 100 paid subscribers, which isn't that much, but that's contributed to a little bit of revenue over time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Congratulations on that. So as far as like you want to stop next year at the 4-year mark, then what would you want to do next?
That's a tough question. And I feel like I've been asked that a lot and always had the same answer, which is I have no idea. I have no clue. Maybe I'll have a better idea this time next year. I don't know. But I know that I will have a range of paths I can walk down at that point. If I want to continue the wildland fire stuff or go down the medical route, I can do that. Ranching based stuff, I can do that. Maybe I could also start up the agricultural drone business again and go down that path. I think part of the idea behind the preparation is that you'll have not only will you have so many different paths you can walk down at the end of it to make money, which is the main thing people focus on nowadays, is just trying to make more money. That's certainly going to be available to you, but along the way, you're going to have all these strange and unique opportunities that will be offered to you that will be other paths you can walk down, other things you can do, other ways you can earn money. And just go over them again. The wildland fire stuff was one of them. The geophysics crew work was one of those opportunities. The meeting the guy and doing mule packing in Colorado was one of those opportunities. You'll be offered all of these. Maybe not the same ones or similar, but people will, especially if you're young, people will come out of the woodwork to support any young person who's really really trying to do anything in the world, showing personal agency, and they will offer money-making opportunities, potential career paths to you, 100% willingly. So I don't know what I'm going to do. We'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, let's talk about, because the initial premise of the preparation is be, do, have. Did I get that in the right order? Be, do, have.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how you have changed and what has been awakened in you through this process? It's a very non-traditional process, might I add, of becoming.
Sure. Well, be, do, have, just going over it very quickly, is a good way of framing a life. And nowadays we focus on the have too much. What kind of car can I have? What kind of career can I have? What kind of spouse can I have? All of these things, have. And that's an odd thing to push onto people, especially when they're young and they have no real life experience. All you really have is energy, and that's where the do comes into play. And so if you spend 4 years of your life where you have the most energy you'll ever have doing a lot, it'll blend into the be. You'll actually become more of who you are by doing more of these things, and it becomes a virtuous cycle where the more you are and the more you do, the more you can do, the more you can have over time. But at the end of the day, the most important is the be. And I think, like I was saying to you in the beginning, who I was in the beginning was very different. If I wouldn't have gone down this path, I would have been a very different person. It does scare me to think about who I would have been if I didn't, because I have a hard time believing that if I didn't do all of this willingly, by my own volition, then that 17-year-old who hid in his room from guests at our house, that behavior would have only gotten worse, and that anger with the outside world, disappointment with myself, would have ruminated with time, and would have just, I don't know, I wouldn't have some of the people I have now. I wouldn't have some of the relationships I have now. I wouldn't have done all the things I've done. I would have been much weaker mentally and physically. I would have been still, I'm a fraction of what I'd like to be. I would have been a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the person I want to be. And yeah, I don't know if that's a good explanation or not.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's a good explanation. Of the cycles, which ones have meant the most to you, or do you feel have been the most challenging and character building at the same time? Because I find oftentimes the hardest stuff is what builds us the most. Which cycles have done that for you?
I would say a big one for me was the sailing cycle, actually, because at the end of it, you do get a certification that does allow you to work on sailboats, and that's great. But going through the process of going to a very strange land, the Falklands are incredibly strange. Going there alone, getting on a boat with a crew of 5 people plus 2 other students, people I had never met, having to be with them and work with them, cook and clean with them, and learn how to sail a boat for the first time in unpleasant conditions. It's very cold, very windy. You definitely get seasick down there. it sucked in some ways. Going through that entire process was extremely beneficial and interesting and character building for sure. And I think coming out of that was the point where my dad usually says that's where I turn from a boy to a man. That's in his mind the mark. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think that was one of the biggest contributors to it all. But everything has contributed in some way. Each cycle is so different, so wildly different from the last. You're always in a new setting, always in a new environment, always around new people, always having to look like a fool because you're starting from scratch. So everything is character building in some way.
I love that. So I was talking, my daughter, who's 18, actually took the preparation book. And one of the things that I've gotten from since your dad's episode aired was I've had a lot of moms reach out regarding their daughters. And so your sister, because you have an 18-year-old sister, correct? Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
She's doing kind of a form of the preparation as well. She's doing some of her own cycles. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Yes, this is correct. She did the builder cycle, actually. She went to Vermont and took a month-long design and build course there, which was good. And then she's planning on going to Florence to do our chef cycle in September, where, you go to one of the most beautiful cities in the world. You're surrounded by amazing culture. You're kind of apprenticed to a professional Italian chef could be a month or 3 months, depending upon which course you choose. They also teach you some Italian as well. So you're learning the language along the way. And I think it'll be very beneficial for her. And I think that cycle appeals, at least in my experience, to women a lot. It appeals to me, though, too. I love Florence, so I love to do it. But yes, that's what she's doing now.
Well, and that's something I've thought about that because I have 2 kids left at home, and besides my daughter, and I've thought about that as far as actually, I do have an adult child that moved back home, like so many adult children have had to do in economic times recently.
Absolutely.
But I've thought about that with my daughters, and I think your dad talked about women already being whole. But yet I still see the same, as you mentioned that you felt like you were floundering as a 17-year-old and lost. I see that still with so many girls and not just young men. And whereas I feel like young men need a rite of passage, which you mentioned that when you got off that sailing ship, your dad noticed that was the threshold that you crossed. Like it was almost like a rite of passage, which I think the preparation lends itself to, which we don't have anymore as a Western society, and we need it. But for the girls too, there's still this what do I do, and what's next, and is it college and maybe the trades, but probably not, and so in some ways I feel like girls get stuck as well, and so it's not just a man problem, it's a female problem too. And so I've thought about that, what cycles would women do? What would be some great appropriate cycles? And I know there's people that are like, women can do everything the men can do. Yeah, that's fine. But we're made different. We think different. We are not the same. And yes, my daughter could probably learn, go to Thailand and learn to fight, but I don't think she wants to. And I don't want her to, so.
Yeah.
So it's something that a lot of parents I know are like, what can the girls do? And I'm like, that's a good question. That's something that someone's going to have to figure out. Maybe it'll be me. Maybe it'll be, you guys. Who knows? But the other thing I wanted to ask you about, because I got an interesting call yesterday from a friend. And she said, my 14-year-old son is just stuck. And we homeschool, but we're like, do we do concurrent enrollment? But he does not love academics at all. And he's just kind of floundering. And she said, I listened to the episode on the preparation, and I've just been thinking, what could I have him do? And I personally whereas once upon a time, I believed that all kids should go through high school and do all the classes and do all the sciences and all the maths and all the things. I don't feel that way anymore. Especially learning the history of high school, that it's a recent phenomenon. And so she and I talked about what could a 14-year-old boy who is floundering do? Because I feel that's really when it starts for most boys, where it starts to, there seems to be just this void. Any ideas, like having been there, and she and I, this is where we landed, was that she said, I think I'm going to see if he can find a job and work, at least part-time, but then see if he can apprentice. He really loves working with his hands and motorcycles. I wonder if he could apprentice at a motorcycle shop or a dirt bike shop, and so she's like, I think that's what I want to have him try at least. But in your experience, having been through that floundering age and now having been through the preparation, what do you wish, knowing what you know now, what do you wish you would have done differently as a 14, 15-year-old that was floundering?
I definitely wish that I would have looked around me to the people closest to me to learn things from them, because I think one of the problems with our culture now is that each generation is so disconnected from the last.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
We're so segregated into age brackets, and frankly, one of the problems with college is that everybody says the socialization aspect is great. And it might be, but you also have to remember that you're stuck around people who are just as ignorant and dumb as you are. The people you really want to be around and the people who are going to have anything to teach you are going to be people who are 10, 20, 30, 40 years older than you. Mm-hmm. And so I think we all, even myself at 14 or 15, I had people in my family or maybe family friends who I could have, if I showed some initiative, I could have asked them, I really want to learn this one thing. Can you teach me? I'm sure I could have found something. And doing anything at that time would have been beneficial, just like it was when I was 17. It didn't matter what I was doing. Didn't matter. Like the outcome of working 911 as an EMT was not the intended outcome. It was just doing something that was a launching point, getting a foundational level of understanding and competency in something. So I think, for that young man who's 14, apprenticing somewhere, if it's available to him, that's one great thing. Or there are a lot of courses you can take even if you're under 18. A lot of times all your parents have to do is sign a liability waiver and they'll still let you take a course. I went to a Wrangler school when I was 17 actually, and technically I wasn't supposed to go because I was underage, but you get a form of liability signed off and you can do a lot of things even if you're not actually 18 yet. There's so many more options available to people than they actually imagine. It's just kind of that perceived authority and perceived roadblocks that stand in the way. You can push the boundaries with things a little bit, and even if you are 14 or 15, much more things can be available to you than you may think. There's probably somebody in your family who knows something worth learning, or they know somebody who knows something worth learning. So that's what I would have done if I was 14 or 15, definitely.
I love that. Yeah, I was thinking, one of the things that I told this mom is I said, so the unfortunate part for you is, Mom, you're going to have to be the one who finds the thing and advocates for the child, because they're not going to do it, especially if they're just floundering right this second. And I was thinking with my own, I have a 14-year-old son right now. And 2 years ago, so no, a year and a half ago, he had mentioned, he goes, I think I might want to be a plumber or possibly this or possibly that. And he goes, but I know I love to work with my hands. And so I called all around trying to find an internship for him. And finally, I found a cabinet shop that said, well, I mean, we do sometimes take 14-year-olds, but he's only 12 and a half. But they said, I guess we couldn't pay him. I'm like, it doesn't matter, just so now here he is a year and a half later, and he works there a couple times a week and he really enjoys it. Although he's like, I don't think that's what I want to do for the rest of my life, but I know I like to work with my hands and I'm proud of the work that I do. And so I'm like, that works, and we'll figure out the rest as we go. But, as far as do you feel like this experience has affected your number one hope and number 2, confidence.
Hope as in, what do you mean exactly?
Like hope in life. And I say that just because my nephew is also your age, and he spent a couple years doing church service work in a different country. And then he just got home in April, and I told him to get the preparation. And he had really struggled because he knew he didn't want to go to college. He didn't know if he wanted to go into the trade, the exact same thing, like didn't know what would be next. And so I gave him the preparation, and he just like jumped right on it. Right. As a matter of fact, he's going to be moving in with us in a few months to do the welding cycle. And when I was talking to him, he said, I feel like I have hope for the future. Like I am excited. It's exciting. And when I talk to my friends and they're like, I don't know what I want to major in college, so I'm just taking my general eds, he's like, I just feel excited, and right now he's in Alaska working on a ranch. And so,
Really?
Yeah. So,
wow.
I don't even know how he got that, but anyway, that's what he's doing. And so, but he mentioned to me that he just felt hope. Like, he's like, I just feel excitement and hope for the future. Like I'm living this exciting adventure. Did you feel that way, or did you feel more terror? I guess that's my question.
Sure. While I was actually doing some of those things on the onset of it, I did feel pretty nervous every time, very anxious. But there is, which I can't speak for young women, but young men need it. It's that hero's journey. And it's the, what's the best way to put it? It's the, like viewing your life through the lens of kind of a myth. And seeing everything you do as like a progression on that hero's journey, on that path. That was something that just came to me naturally in the beginning, and I think it does for a lot of young men who start. It's that initial excitement of like, it doesn't matter that there's no end goal to this one thing, and that I actually have no idea what the end goal might even look like in the future. It's that I now have unlocked a whole area of knowledge. Sure, I know very little of it, but it's unlocked to me, and I understand kind of the framework around it and how to do some of these things in the real world. And the more you stack these skills, the more you kind of further the idea of the hero's journey in your mind, in a way, because it's an ever changing process that you're going through, and it's always, well, not always, but mostly exciting and interesting and new. And I guess, to answer your question about hope specifically, I did feel a lot more hope for things. I didn't feel like the world was closed off to me anymore after getting a few months into the program, because it felt so, I just felt like the world opened up to me. And all of a sudden I realized that it is true that you can do nearly anything you set your mind to, which I think is something that should be said carefully, because the way we say it to kids is incorrect. Like, oh, you can be an astronaut or whatever. It's a tightrope to walk when saying something like that in terms of what the ultimate meaning of it is. Mm-hmm. But just realizing that you can go out and learn something new in a new environment that is its own adventure, its own journey, and then come out of it and actually understand how it works. Like that definitely lifts your spirits quite a bit. It changes the way you think and look at the world. And then in terms of your question on confidence, definitely. If you were to speak to me at the beginning of this, I think my face would have been flushed red, and I would have been extremely embarrassed. And maybe just not even shown up to talk, honestly. The more things you do, the more foundational levels of competence you gain. That's where the confidence comes from. You would at least know you can endure unpleasant circumstances, unknown circumstances, and actually come out the other side with tangible and intangible benefits and lessons from it. So 100%.
Well, I love that. And I think too, as I've watched so many young adults flounder, because I do have kids that are young adults age, and I know their friends. And one of the things that seems to me from those that I've read, their Substacks, of their experience doing the preparation is that it's almost like, whereas I see a lot of young adults in college and it's like life is happening to them and they don't really have a choice. They go and then they try to figure out what major they're going to major in, and someday how are they going to pay back the loans that they get, and then they're going to hopefully find a job. Maybe somebody will take them on as an employee. And it always feels like, to me, when I talk to these young adults, almost like life is happening to them, versus as I've read the preparation and as I've talked to my nephew, as I've talked to your dad, now it's talking to you, it's almost like you're taking the bull by the horns and are like, no, I choose, I pick, and I'm going to make it happen. Nothing has to happen to me. I can be sovereign over my life. I can make things happen versus waiting around hoping that life happens to me and luck happens and I end up in a good job and maybe I'll make enough money to pay back my student loans. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense, but it feels to me empowering for young adults to be able to go, oh no, I can move heaven and earth and do all sorts of cool things, like learn to do pack horsing or whatever.
Absolutely. I mean, you're 100% right. It is so impactful for young people. I mean, if you know that within a shocking time frame, you've learned how to do these things. Like, let's say you're a wildland firefighter and you've actually worked on fires, real fires, and you also know how to fly a plane, and you can weld, and you know how to sail, and you can build and design a house, and you started your own business, and you know the foundations of investing, and it's like, and you do this all before 22 years old, while everybody's going, okay, well, like you said, I don't know my major yet. I know kind of the time frame of when I want to graduate. We'll just see if I get a job from this and where that leads me. Everything is in the traditional paths. Almost everything is, life happens to you exactly like you said. It's the outside world has to align. The stars have to align for things to work out for you. Whereas with this, I don't know anybody who wouldn't have like an unbelievable capacity to do stuff in the real world after going through 4 years of this. It's completely different, whole different ball game.
I love that. What is the last bit of advice that you would give to two different people? To moms, I know some of you might be like, why is a young man giving a mom advice? But this is from his perspective, right? What advice would you give to moms who want to encourage their sons who might be floundering? That's the first question. And then what advice would you give to other young adults after what you've experienced thus far? Those two questions.
Well, to moms, I think that one's actually easier than the second question, because I think what you did with your young son is a perfect example of exactly the thing you want to see. Like, that is, I was so happy to hear that you actually went out and tried to look for something for your son to actually do in the real world, despite all the limitations or perceived limitations. Like the fact that he's still 12 and a half now.
He's 14 now. Yeah.
He's 14 now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's 14 now.
Even though he was only 12 and a half at the time, like the fact that you went out and did that, if more moms did that for their sons, because frankly, you have to, I think, from probably, around that age, maybe stopping at around 15, 16. But you do need that guidance still at that age, just because you haven't done anything in the real world. You don't know how anything works. So I think you're the perfect example, Janae, of actually what mom should do, going out and helping their kids get on the path, or even just do anything in general. Any advice for people around my age? I would say that they should forget the idea that their life should be based around like one track, and that ultimately they should have mastered one thing. I think that can come later on. You can put your energy and effort towards that when you're a bit older, when you've actually done more things in the real world. But I think it's beneficial for everybody during these formative years to really try to go out and do as many real things as possible, no matter the criticism, which you're going to have some. I even in the very beginning, I had family members calling my dad, asking him if I was okay, because they didn't understand what I was doing. They saw that I was jumping from one skill to the next, or one course to the next, when they wanted me to focus on one thing. So despite the criticism, despite the mental, psychological difficulties of trying to convince yourself that it's beneficial for you in the long run to dedicate yourself to things a lot within a short period, but then move on very quickly. I think just going in and doing as much as you can within a short time frame is one of the best things you can do, and disregarding the criticism, because after you do a lot, after you get a lot done, after you learn a lot, the same people who criticized you, even if it's family or friends, will come back around and go, "Oh my God, I'm so proud of you. I can't believe you did all this." So forget about the criticism. It doesn't matter.
I love that. One last thing I wanted to say, that I think I'm a big believer that all children and teens need to learn how to write and write well. And one thing that I love that the preparation has done is that, like, it expands the mind, but also expands the skills. But then with that piece of accountability with writing on Substack, you're honing in on those writing skills that you have to express yourself. And I've loved that. I was like, yes, because then they can articulate their thoughts, and there is power in articulation and rhetoric. So I've loved that. Anyway, Maxim, thank you so much for coming on today and taking this time with me. I know that your time is so precious, and you have so many exciting adventures to yet go on. So thank you for taking the time with me and sharing this piece of your life, which is very personal, I know. So thank you. Thank you. No. Mamas and papas, grandmas and grandpas, you are doing so much better than you think you are. You got this. And we will talk next week. If you found this helpful and you are in need of extra resources, tips, tricks, and other helps, I invite you to sign up for my newsletter at school2homeschool.com.